Now we think and we are sure that a robot or a Turing machine that proves theorems really does not understand theorems. So that will be more or less.
Well, how do we know that? I mean, I agree, but it seems to me I agree for trivial reasons, because understanding theorems is a property of people. So therefore, yeah, the Turing machine doesn't understand programs. But, you know, it's true, but kind of, yeah, for exactly Wittgenstein's reasons. And yes, understanding Chinese would do the same. In fact, if somebody asked, does a robot identify a straight line? I would say no. Identifying straight line is something people do. Does a robot take a walk, let's say? I mean, there are robots that move things that look like legs and go somewhere. Suppose somebody said, is the robot taking a walk? It's just a stupid question, you know? I mean, taking a walk is something that people do. If you want to extend the metaphor to robots, okay. It's exactly as stupid as the question whether airplanes really fly. You know? I mean, nobody would waste time on that, you know? And why should you waste time on this? It's the same kind of question.
If you try to push the simulation to the extreme, and then, so suppose you get a human and then just a replication of that human, it still doesn't follow that you have explained anything. I mean, it might be the case that the way you make a copy of a human presupposes that you understand it, you understand how it works. But I mean, it's like if you were to ask Frankenstein how a human works. I mean, it's like, in a way, it's like if you try to synthesize a molecule. Okay, you can do it the usual way. First, understand its structure, then solve the practical problem. But if you do it just by chance or by you don't know how you get at it. I mean, then you haven't explained it.
Well, see, I think there's some issues that have to be sorted out here. Notions like molecule and notions like person are radically different. Now, there's a whole philosophical literature about persons that has to do with things like duplicating them. So this is an effort to explore our intuitive concept of a person. And our intuitive concept of a person is extremely weird. So if you take the science fiction type stories, if a person is, you know, if you look at, you know, some crazy science fiction movie, you get people teletransported, right? They're dropped from the spaceship to Earth instantaneous at the speed of light. And the way it's done is you decode the person's genetic, the instructions in the cells. So you've got a coding of the person, and then you send it at the speed of light to some other place where the person's instantly reconstituted. Well, question, is it the same person? Okay, well, most people seem to think it is. That is, like when kids watch these programs, they say, yeah, the person got teletransported. But then, of course, come the further questions, the obvious ones. Suppose that when you teletransport the person, you leave the original. Okay, you don't eliminate it, you leave it. Which is the person, you know? And if the two are identical, is it moral to destroy one of them? And if so, which one, you know? Well, you get into those questions. Now, and you go on and on. And in fact, if you pursue it, what you discover is that our concept of a person is an extremely weird concept. But that's true of our concept of everything. Our concept of a chair is an extremely weird concept, if you look at it. In fact, the concepts of human language are very strange. I'll talk about this if there's time, either later today or tomorrow. But the concepts of human language are extremely strange concepts. Not human thought are extremely strange concepts. And you got to eliminate them all if you want to do science. They're just not appropriate for science. So you don't care any. I mean, now, molecule, there was a stage when it was sort of like a human concept. But as science marches on, it divests molecule of all intuitive properties. So you can ask questions about identity of molecules. For example, if a quantum physicist tells you that every 2 electrons anywhere in the universe are identical, okay, even if one of them's here and one of them's on Alpha Centauri, well, okay, that means something in quantum physics. Doesn't mean anything in English, you know. But You create concepts which have their own properties, and then you can raise questions about, is this identical with that, or, and you can raise the kind of questions that you've described. I mean, have you understood something if you show how the object, like a molecule, is constructed? You can't really ask that about persons, because persons aren't really objects. I mean, what our concept of a person is something that has a kind of psychic persistence to it. No object in the universe, no physical object in the universe, could have the property that it's over here now, and at the speed of light it's somewhere else, an instant later. That's not a property of a physical object, but it is a property of our concept of person. In fact, there are even simpler things about our concept of person that are strange. Your body undergoes a constant change in its physical substance. Like every 7 years or so, I guess, all the protoplasm is replaced by something else. Okay. Well, if you were looking at physical objects, it would just be a different physical object. If you're looking at it from the point of view of the human concept person, it's the same person. And you look, you look totally different. I mean, you meet somebody you haven't seen for 25 years, they look different. I mean, all kind of physical changes have taken place. Is it the same object? Well, you can't, when you're using human concepts, yes, it's the same person, because the criteria for individuating persons are the kind of criteria that you couldn't possibly use in a naturalistic inquiry into the world. I mean, physics isn't going to, or biology is not going to want to have a concept that has these crazy properties. So they're going to have other concepts which they make up to serve the purposes of theoretical understanding. Human concepts are, very limited utility for theoretical understanding. They don't carry it very far, because they got too many weird properties, like psychic persistence, whatever that means, which we sort of know intuitively. And you can do thought experiments in which people tend to agree, although there get to be some where they lose their intuitions, like the teletransportation where you leave the copy behind. That's a point where most people just lose their intuitions. They don't know whether it's the same person or not. So we have these very strange concepts with other funny properties, and those are okay for us. That's the way we get along in the world. But they're no good for science. And therefore, to try to draw analogies between constructing a person and constructing a molecule don't make much sense, because there's no notion of constructing a person in the natural sciences, since the concept person can't exist in the natural sciences. It has too many crazy properties.